If you have followed this entire series, you will probably notice a pattern. Because we started from constraints, moved into electricity as a system, then talk about stability and eventually time. And now we arrived at the final layer, control. Because in the end, energy is not really about what you have, but rather about what you are able to control. For decades, global energy competition was largely defined by resources, where countries with oil, gas, and coal naturally held structural advantages. But that framework is now shifting. Today, resources can be traded, transported, and priced globally, which means an exercise is no longer the core differentiator. However, control cannot be transferred the data easily because the control doesn't come from resources themselves, but from the system built around them. You can buy oil, but you cannot instantly build a stable power grid. And while you can import natural gas, you still cannot immediately create a system that balances the supply and demand in real time. And it is exactly at this point that the real differences between countries begins to emerge. If we look at a simple comparison, China's total electricity consumption has already exceeded 10 trillion kilowatt hours, while the United States consumes roughly 4 trillion, and European operates at a similar scale, which means that China's electricity system is approaching or even surpassing the combined level of the United States and Europe. But this is not simply about size, because electricity is not just a number, it reflects the level of activity across industrial production, manufacturing, infrastructure, and even computation. And in that sense, it becomes the physical expression of a system operating at a scale. More importantly, it reflects the control. China has built one of the largest and most complex power grid systems in the world, including ultra-high voltage transmission networks that connect energy production in the West with industrial demand in the East, which means the system is not only generating power, but also coordinating it across vast distances. This is not just the generation capacity, it is coordination capacity. In contrast, during the European energy crisis, what we observed was not merely a shortage of resources, but a limitation of the system itself. Where energy costs surged, industrial production slowed down, and in some cases, entire industries began relocating. Was not simply a resources issue, it was a system issue, and system issue are fundamentally issue of control, because modern energy systems are required to operate continuously, where supply must match the demand in every second. Fluctuation must be managed in real time, and shocks must be absorbed without disrupting the system as a whole. To achieve this, you need infrastructure, technology, coordination, and long-term investment, all of which, when combined from what we can call control capacity. And this leads to a deeper conclusion, which is that the real competition between countries today is no longer just about the exercise to energy resources, but about the ability to organize, manage, and stabilize complex energy systems. Because in a world filled with increasing uncertainty, stability itself becomes a form of power. Energy determines the supply, electricity determines the system, but control ultimately determines the future.